Next is scope of educational psychology. The problem of education is learning, learning, and learning. Means the chief problem of educational psychology is learning only. How it should take place, by which method it should be uh, inculcated among the child. The basic problem of education is learning and the answer given by the educational psychology. Because when we talk problem, then areas come. In what areas there are problem? So the five major areas covered under the educational psychology. One is learner. In the first day, I said that what is education? I have given four thumb rule. The learner should be able to learn, teacher should be able to teach, and there should be a teacher should be aware about the teaching methodology, how to teach. And the last one was for teaching learning process, environment is also play very important role. So here five major areas. First is the learner. Second is learning process. Third is learning situation. And fourth is teaching situations. That we, as I have discussed, that four are the important issues and which are deal by educational psychology. And the last is evaluation of learning performance. What is learning performance and how it can be analyzed, how it can be evaluated? You know, the study of educational process is also included in the study of educational psychology. Educational psychology also provide the principles to better the mental health of the teacher and the students. It talks about the problem of personality, intellect, integrity of teacher. Even it talks the subject of education psychology. So educational psychology attempts to remedy several problems of teaching learning process. So this is the scope of educational psychology. There are four important: learner, learning process, learning situations, and teaching situations. We will discuss these four in next. So what is the contribution of educational psychology if we talk about education? Educational psychology helps in realizing educational aim. What are the aim of education? It is described by with the help of knowledge of educational psychology. So without knowledge of psychology, it is difficult to realize the aims of education. Measurement of learning outcomes. There are so many tests, reliable tests, instrument, even uh, scales which are being used for the measurement of mental capacity, intellectual intelligence, attitude, aptitude. There are so many mental measurement instruments. Connects it to understand problems of learner. If as a teacher If I am aware what are the problems of learner, so problems can be successfully solved by the teacher if he or she is aware or studying the educational psychology. The next contribution is helping in maintaining discipline. You know, as we discussed in previous slides, then it is a very useful for principals and administrators for maintaining the discipline. So, as a teacher, as a principal, as a educator, as a administrator, educational psychology helps to all to understand the nature of child, what is the strength of child, what is the weakness, what are the interest, what is the aptitude, and which help to maintain the discipline in the classroom, not only classroom, even outside of the classroom. Choosing effective teaching method. Yes, of course, if the teacher is aware about the educational psychology, then he or she may change, may use the teaching methodology as per the problems of the child and as per the different stage, as per the different in the different situations, because teaching methodology is not static. To understand and individual differences, yes, if the teacher is aware, then teacher may analyze the factor which are responsible for individual differences, and by knowing the individual differences, he may create conducive environment for the learner in a school or even outside the school. And these competencies which are attained by teacher by educational psychology will develop the inherent potential of the learner at maximum extent. To understand the developmental characteristic, by learning that educational psychology, teacher should be aware the characteristics of learner, and based on the characteristics, he can mold, he can instruct, he can guide the child for getting, for attaining the specified goal of education as per age, as per stage, as per IQ. IQ we will discuss in later. And educational psychology also emphasis on the role of learner. You know, learner's attitude, emotions, feeling, all should be respected. But who can respect? Who is aware about these qualities, these traits of the child? And it can be possible only proper learning of educational psychology. Next, this was the unit number 4. Now the unit number 5, nature and scope of the child psychology. And its particular unit, we will discuss what is the nature of child, what are the importance of child psychology, trace the development of child psychology, what are the factors which influence the, is anybody? And what is the role of preschool in education psychology, in education of young children? So these are the important subtopics of today's discussion is unit number 5 of block 2. First, we will take what is the nature of child psychology. Although we have discussed what is the nature of psychology, here we will discuss what is the nature of child psychology. So first, know what is the meaning of child psychology. So child psychology is a branch, you know, psychology is the holistic term and child psychology is one of them, and it focus on study of behavior of child from prenatal stage to adolescence. Child psychology is not limited how child grow physically. It also study the mental, emotional, and social development of the child. Child psychology is a kind of pattern of growth and which have 5 stages. And these 5 stages we have discussed in previous sessions also, but we just repeat again. One is prenatal period that start from conception to birth. The second is infancy, 0 to 2 years. Early childhood include to age of 2 years to 6 years. Middle childhood, that age 6 to 9. And pre-adolescence, age 9 to onset of adolescence. There are three contexts, major contexts of child psychology. When we talk about the child psychology, then three major contexts are there. One is social context, second is cultural context, and third is socio-economic context. What is social context? That may be the family, society, means what are the impact of family, society, neighborhood, peers. So as a teacher, should aware what are the impact of these kind of social group on the child. Even there are some cultural heritage also. What are their implications? What are the implications of cultural heritage on the child? Sometimes child may be influenced by some cultural heritage. That's why he or she is not able to learn properly. So teacher should be aware what are the cultural context, socio-economic conditions. The child is coming from very poor socio-economic conditions, and he or she is not able to be attentive in the classroom to learn. So teacher should be aware what is the social context and or from which social context the child is coming. And by knowing this fact, teachers should change their methodology of teaching by one-to-one interaction and as uh, the demand of child, as the uh, situations, as per the situations. It is the up to the teacher that what kind of methodology, what kind of techniques he is using. By knowing all three context, social context, cultural context, and socio-economic context. The next is why we study child psychology as a teacher, as a human being. So there are four important reasons, and one should study the child psychology. The first is for selecting the suitable programs. The knowledge of child psychology can be helpful in selecting daycare programs and handling children's temper. The second is increasing happiness. If we study the child psychology, then we will be able to create the environment as a teacher for bring the happiness among the child. So child psychology suggests way and means to realize adjustment of human being at different stage of life. Understanding how a child feel. If we are not aware about the child psychology, then we will not be able that how child is feeling. So it enables us to understand how child feel and in what way they differ from adult, and these comes by studying the child psychology only. For detecting the deviant development, child psychology also help in early detection of the problem of the child arising due to various reasons, due to various situations. So these are the importance why we study the child psychology. Next, there are some pioneers. They defined, they practiced the child psychology. One was the Stanley Hall. Stanley Hall was known as a father of child psychology. Means he started in 1846 work on the child psychology. Watson, he also practiced the child psychology because he used research on the behavior or measurement of the behavior of the child. Means he was the kind of follower of behaviorism. The next name, Sigmund Freud. You must have heard the name of Sigmund Freud. In 1856 to 1939, he has given so many theory on the child psychology. He used the technique, he developed the techniques of psychoanalysis and the theory of psychosexual development. Psychoanalysis and psychosexual, these are the two development and which can be considered the major contributions in the child psychology. And next is Arnold Gesell. He also believed that child development is guided primarily by genetic. Means he described the role of gene in the development of child. So he believed that child development is guided primarily by genetic process, and thereafter environment play a very few role, very minor role. And Piaget, you must have heard the name of Piaget, Jean Piaget. We have discussed more about the Piaget. Piaget is the most influential development theorist on the date. You know, he practiced on his own child. He observed, he experimented what are the stages and how the child react, how the child learn, that we have already discussed in previous sessions. But you know, the Piaget is kind of differ from other pioneers. Means Piaget is differ from Stanley, Watson, Freud and Giselle. Because his theoretical views are widely accepted. He has analyzed, he has given a very clear theory. Even he talked about kind of sigma, schema, what is schema, and what are the learning stage. So Piaget was the most influential theorist and psychologist. He has discussed a lot on child psychology. That you, if you are aware, if you are, we have discussed the preschools for the development of the child. You know, the preschool is the first ladder. Even the first ladder of education is home. But home, at home, 0 to 2 year, and after 2 year, the student comes in preschool. So the role of preschool is very important. Ideally, you know, the best preschool is home only, and the mother is the teacher, and other family members are also the guide, mentor. But you know, the all homes cannot be considered as a good source of education, because some homes provide exactly right education, value education, but some may not be because of various reasons. The parents are not literate, the parents are not conscious, even the parents are not able to understand the quality. They may be kind of, they may not be too much responsible about the duties and the role of education and the importance of education. So preschool play very important role, although it is not a kind of formal education, but it is a kind of halfway. Means it is the between house and school. It is the mid. It lies within the way or on the way home to school. It is a kind of transition phase for learning of child, but it also provide a kind of ladder. It bridge between school and home. It's it's make the child to go to the school. He and the preschool also nurture the child to make ready to learn. So the importance and the responsibility on preschools is very high. Therefore, the pre-primary school should provide for the healthy all-round development of the child. You know, the chief prerequisite of learning is that is the learner's readiness. And who will make ready the learner? That is preschool education. You know, to make readiness of the child, there are two important factors. One is maturation and second is experience. 0 to 6 age, preschools play a very important role to make mature the child to get ready to go to the school. And by kind of experiences attained in the preschool, child is also happily join the school. Next, nature of learning at preschool. You know, even block, even this MES-081, we have discussed a lot the role of preschool, but here we are adding the word of child psychology. So we are discussing here in the umbrella of child psychology and what should be the nature of learning at preschool. The preschool marks the informal or preparatory stage in education. The preschools provide equipment. Equipment means kind of toys, kind of learning uh, objects. Preschool provide encouragement, guidance, so that child may learn various skills. Preschool must include activities of mental, intellectual, emotional, as well as social development of the child. Preschool is illustrated with reference to the two basic, that is language and number. Means preschool should stress upon the language and numbers. So first, language in preschool, there is a enrichment of vocabulary through where conversation between the peer group, conversation between the teacher and child, through various story which are being tell the child, and various kind of songs, folklores. Even the important role of preschool by telling the stories and song means Mahabharat, Ramayana. These are the important stories that should be tell to the children for their development. Even there are so many other religious important uh, stories. Even we may, as a teacher, we may tell the child about the leadership, various good leader, background of experiences. In a child school, the student attain various kind of experience, and these experience will help the child to get further education, further primary education. So child is so preschool responsibility to make up that deficiency in their experience of the child. Reading, writing, it's also play very important role in language development, and preschool should stress upon numbers. If you remember, I said that the formulas of three are reading, writing, and arithmetic. So arithmetic deal kind of numbers. So preschool child should be presented with a variety of concrete situations where they can get practical experience, and what is the weight of things and what is the measurement. Even should create the situation, then he may be given kind of situation, then he may buy, and what is the money, and by purchasing the what money is required and what money is left. So these all kind of knowledge should be given at preschool. Next, this was the unit number 5, and here also many units are there. So what are the tools and techniques? Means we talk about the child study, child psychology. What are the tool? What are the techniques to measure child psychology and all? So in this particular unit, we will learn the importance of child study and what are the approaches used for child study. Even what is the difference between various methods used in understanding the child, understanding the children, and what are the applications of child study. Very quickly, because so importance of child study. Child study provide a window of child world. Then what child think, what child feel, what child do, what are the different stages of child development, This is the child's world, and that enable us to understand how they feel and how they are different from others, means kind of individual differences. How we can study the child psychology? So there are approaches, two approach: qualitative approach of child study, and second is quantitative approach of child study. First, we will discuss the qualitative approach of child study. Next, qualitative approach of child study. One is observation. Through observation, meaningful and authentic experience of the child can be studied. Observe a child interaction under the specific circumstances. When the observation of behavior of child is concerned in the natural environment, it is called that naturalistic observation. So by observing the child, we can be aware, or teacher can be aware about the child, about his ability, about his weakness, strength. The second is self-report. A self-report involves collecting the data directly from the participants. Means you raise some questions and ask the child to answer, and based on answer you can form a report, and answers can be in the form of interview, sorry, questions can be in the form of interview or questionnaire, means it can be verbal or it can be kind of written method. So these two, interview and questionnaire, have some defect also, because we are talking about child. So child is not able to even respond the answer properly, and may not able to write answers. So what are the defect? The child may not give the correct answer, as he may be prone to conceal the traits, because he may be kind of introvert. He is aware about the answer, but he is has hesitate to answer, he hesitating to respond the answer. And further, there is no device to evaluate the validity of response received. Like I ask one question in very first day, that question should be directive, question should be meaningful. It should not be like that how is India? The answer may be the India is democratic country. The answer may be the India is a developing country. The answer may be the India is agriculture based country. So therefore, there is no device to evaluate the answer is correct when the question is not framed properly. A child may not understand certain question. Teacher is asking some question, but he is not able to understand. He could not listen properly. So he may give wrong answer. If we talk about questionnaire, sometimes questionnaires reach to the parents and they may answer as per their experiences they have attained in their past life, and may not like to observe children accurately. Actually, The parents and teacher may not like to reveal certain defects of the children as they consider them as a reflection upon themselves. Sometimes false points are added in the answer. So there are these are the defects by using the method of self report, and that too by using the tools interview and questionnaire. But these are the defect, but there are some qualities also. There are some certain advantage of questionnaire. The method of this method of questionnaire and as well as interview, because interview is also maybe in the written form, helps finding out the many answers his own children's within a short time. By using the questionnaire or interview, the teacher is able to get the result, get the data in very short time. So it is a time saving method. You know, it is also a method which enable us to know the points of view of parents as well as teachers about the children. Next. Next is case study. Still we are discussing qualitative approach of child study. The next is case study. You know, case study is an extensive study of a specific individual or a specific context. It may not be generalized. As a teacher, you have seen a child is not learning properly. So you may use this method of case of study. And Freud was the one of them. He developed various case studies first of several individuals. And why Piaget is important? Because Piaget did case study on his own children and has given various stages of learning and various stages of growth as well as development. So basically, a case study provides extensive data which gives detailed picture of the development process of individual and explain various factors. What are the factors influencing the child learning? That may be the family history, that may be the school experiences, social economic circumstances, or many more, which comes through the outcomes of case study. So this method provides useful input for giving appropriate guidance to the child. As I said, that case study outcomes cannot be generalized. Next is we have discussed the interview method. Interview means there are set of questions and the answer is expected from the child, from the interviewer, and based on the answers, researcher or teacher analyze the result and he generalize the outcomes. Next is diary description. You must have seen in your school there is a diary system is there, and teacher have write some important things about the learning of child, about the problem of child, and based on diary descriptions, it comes on the outcomes that may be the reason of slow learning of child, and that may be the remedy based on the diary description. You must have seen the logbook or the journals in your schools. We also log important things in the logbook. And the most important, even in recent, in modern school practice, anecdotal record. It is a descriptive narrative record which is used to detail specific behavior for child. The next important is checklist. Means there is a checklist of the qualities, of the abilities of the child, and teacher tick. Yes, it is there, it is not. The student have improved or not. So he make the kind of set of qualities that is known as checklist. Further, the scales are there. There are known as rating scale. And rating scales are two type: 3-point scale and 5-point scales. Means it is not quantitative, it is qualitative. If we see the 3-point scale, the question is, do you beat other children? The answer may be never. A student may reply never. I never beat any other children. He may say sometimes he beat the children. He may say yes, I always beat the children. So answer of these three are directing, are giving the three type of child. Never means he may be the kind of cool. Sometimes he may be the kind of cool, but having some even aggressive. And if we say that I used to always beat the child, and the child psychology says that he may be the kind of more aggressive and more, and there may be the so many reasons, and which is the role of educational psychology to find out what may be the reason. Next is 5-point scale. Means answer may be five. 5-point scale is known as also Likert scale because Likert in first time given this scale. Because the question is one only, do you steal? The answer may be never, occasionally, sometimes, frequently, always. Then there may be the other example. Then the open and distance learning is a gateway of knowledge for whom who are not able to join the higher education. The answer may be strongly agree, agree, neutral, not agree, strongly not agree. So these are the scale, rating scale, 3-point scale, 5-point scale. 5-point scale is also known as Likert scale. The next is quantitative methods. One is experimental method. What is experimental method? In experimental method, the variables are controlled. You know, you many of you may aware what is variable, the kind of variable. dependent variable, independent variable, intervening variable. So in experimental method, what teacher do? He want to analyze, he want to study one variable, then he control others variable. So experimentator tries to introduce change in the independent variable gradually, and as a result, a child saw some change in the behavior. And that was the motive of researcher. But there may be some kind of disadvantage also. If we control one variable, then may several negative things may come among the child. Means if you are in experimental laboratory, you are controlling one variable. By controlling the one variable, the child may feel the fear. So it is the duty of teacher when he or she is experimenting. The child should be provided natural environment. He should not try to have more control on one variable. It should be natural environment. Psychrometric method. It is very popular method. As a psychologist, many of psychologists use this psychometric method for the study of children. Means mental ability, educational achievement, interest, personality traits, and these all are measured through a test, through a scale, through inventory. But these scales are standardized. That's why the psychrometric method is most scientific method of measurement. The next is clinical method. This method is being used by the psychologist in the labs for learning the pupil, and for that he try to understand the history of child. He takes some questions in the form of interview, some test, and the test are standardized as said. What the difference between psychrometric method and clinical is only psychrometric method may be used by teachers and principals and educators, but as far as clinical method is concerned, it is used by doctors and psychologists in the clinics. But clinical method, something has been analyzed, but the interpretation have very important role because the interpretation may be biased and maybe differ as per the psychologist. Test is same, method of the analysis is same, result is same, but interpretation may be as per the individual. And one more, the projective techniques, it is also used in the psycho labs. Some tests are there. One is Rosa sign is there. Means teacher take various method to know the projective tech, to know the child by using the productive techniques. Means sometimes he use the ink and take the shape of the hand of the child, and he asked the child to write a story on this. He gives some pictures, some examples, but incomplete, and asks the child to complete all. This projective method, if you are aware, many of you may aware, this projective techniques is being used in armed force also, in defense also, even in various competitive examination like CDS and NDA. In that incomplete story or some pictures shown to the applicant and expected to write their answer and tell the and complete the story. And based on the story and complete story and answers, the investigators make some outcomes and estimate the personality of the child. So these are the quantitative methods of child study. Next. Then what should be the design of child study? There are only two design, longitudinal and cross-sectional. As it is, it can be seen and it can be visualized that longitudinal means it is a long process. Longitudinal approach involves studying the same group of a particulars over a particular time period. The main purpose of longitudinal approach is to find out the development tendency by making an intensive study of various traits of a child at the individual level. In longitudinal approach, the same child is studied intensively at various stages of development through separate observation from to time to time. Means it takes time, because in this study, researcher has to study at various stages, in various situations, in various environment. As far as cross-sectional approach, it is an attempt to find development characteristics at some specific stage. By collecting the data, but of very small, not a big group. But longitudinal approach study on a big group. So there are some limitations and advantage of these two approaches. The longitudinal approach is more expensive in terms of time, energy, where the cross-sectional approach, if we really want to study the developmental tendency of the child, we shall have to use the longitudinal approach, because this enables us to understand the various characteristics of the child from one stage to another stage, or you may say the several stages. As far as cross-sectional approach, it has some advantage. Some advantage means it takes very small time. It is a kind of limited. This approach helps us to study various groups of children within a short time. But if researchers want to learn, to find out, or to study the child issues at various stages, that longitudinal approach is important. Next. So applications of child study. What are the applications? The applications of child study is first knowledge about individual potential. What is the potential of individual? About the child study, of because of the child study, a teacher or a practitioner will be able to know what are the abilities, capacities, what is the interest, aptitude, and other personality traits of individual child. And for this purpose, he or she may use kind of different kind of test like intelligence test, cumulative records, inventories, different scale, attitude scale, aptitude test. Even there are so many personality traits and which can be measured by the various kind of scales and inventories. So the first application of the child study, knowledge about individual potential. Second is ability grouping. Means knowing individual differences in terms of individual potentialities of the various dimensions. The learner in a class or in an area, an activity can be divided into the various homogeneous group, and such division can prove beneficial in adjusting instructions to varying individual differences. Means homogeneous, we may, as a teacher, we may create peer groups. So child studies take very important role for making the peer group, but it is possible to only study of child psychology. Next is adjusting the curriculum. Learner is at center. So because of study of child study, we may be aware that what are the requirement of learner, and the responsibility of framing the curriculum is given to the society. And in society, the role of teacher and learner and parent and family is very important. Once we are aware the requirement of learner, then curriculum may also be framed as per the requirement of learner. So the importance of child psychology is that the curriculum may be flexible and differentiated as much as possible so that learner may get opportunity to study and work in the area of their own interest and ability. So it provide adjustment with the local requirement and potential of the learner of different individual child as well as in group. Next is adopting the appropriate method of teaching. Yes, of course, we are discussing by knowing the child psychology through the child study, a teacher may adopt the appropriate method of teaching. Sometimes he may use playway method, sometimes he may adapt the other method which is essential for the teaching in a given environment and given situation. Even adopting a special program or methods for individual. School may adopt a special program or method for teaching. Like, Dalton method is there, kindergarten method is there. There are so many other methods, project. Even teacher may use the project method, and even kind of trip, kind of field. These methods or these activities may be added as per the need of the child, and that need and child's comes through the study of child. Unit 7, I think there are two more units. So we may go quickly because time is very less. Next is child guidance, principle and procedures. So first we will discuss what is the meaning of guidance, various type of guidance, the importance of guidance at preschool, process of child guidance, and what is the counselor's role and what is the relationship of counselor with the child. So the guidance means it is a common word. Guide means help the individual, and for what? To adjust. So guidance is a process of assisting an individual with his or her adjustment problems. What are the aims of guidance? Guidance is a kind of personal assistance. But personal assistance it can be individually as well as in group. But for guidance, a person should be trained. Teacher can guide, career masters can guide, psychologist can guide, counselors can guide, and the aim of guidance is guidance aim at preparing individual for the future life. It helps the acquiring essential abilities and capabilities to accomplish tasks in the future. It also helps selecting proper profession and what may be the role of child in the society. So guidance has both personal as well as social significance. Type of guidance, there are many type of guidance. One is vocational guidance, second is personal guidance. Vocational guidance means which create the ability of child to find out the vocation, find out the career, find out the field of study. Personal guidance which help the individual child, even that may be the regarding their personal health, personal issues, personal problems. Next, so what is the guidance at preschools? So guidance take place by the teachers only. At the preschool, teacher have to understand the child and give the necessary help in personal and social development. Early guidance of child help to adjust in new situation, in new school, and new even to face the problems in different environment. The child is flexible in his early years. So any problems comes to the child become deep rooted to resist modification. So the role of teacher is important to guide the child even in early years. The parents are keenly concerned about their young's one in school and their cooperation. So it is the duty of teacher as a mentor. Even the child found the issue regarding the adjustment, how child will grow, how child will develop. So the guidance is important at this level also. Guidance in preschools involve helping them not only in learning problems but in various kind of experiences, even to create the enjoyable and engaging the child in learning process. So child guidance and counseling. The child guidance help the child in adjusting in new situations, and during the guidance, child develop the ability to solve the problems and resolve the issue. We have already discussed that there are four levels of child guidance. One is level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Fundamental goals, parental goals, and goals formulated by the counselor. Child goals. Fundamental goals means level 1 means what learners, what are the child's need. So as a counselor, as a teacher, we should be able to guide the child in their learning issues or even their personal issues. Sometimes parents decide some goals. No, my son or my daughter should be a doctor. So the role of counselor and guide become important. Then he or she should learn the ability of the child and should motivate and should guide in the right direction. Sometimes based on the ability of the child, ability of the learner, counselor himself or herself formulate some goals. Then you are having some kinds of qualities, then you should be of this profession and this field of education, this field of study. And the most important, child goal. Child is also decide some goals. Then I should be a good pilot. I should be. Then the role of counselor to counsel in right direction. Now, what is the relationship between child and counselor? Relationship is very important between the child and counselor. It should be kind of connective, because sometimes counselor see the word of child means ability, weakness, strength. Child counselor relationship should be exclusive, means while both are interacting, there should not be other. The presence of others should be prohibited. And there is just some basic rule when the counseling is taking place, that child should not be permitted to injure, child should not be permitted to hurt the counselor, child should not be permitted to damage the things. So it is a duty of teacher or counselor to create a conducive environment to bring out the issues, bring out the problem of the child for remedy, for uh, treat for the treatment. Child counselors be authentic, be confidential, and be purposeful. So this is the kind of thumb rule or what should be the relation. So this is the next slides, child guidance and what are the principles. So in this particular unit, we will discuss a very important topic, although time is not permitting, but no problem. If it is goes after 7, have patience. Intelligence. What is intelligence? What are the theories of intelligence? Intelligence quotient, that is IQ. And what is the difference between group and individual test of intelligence? Means what are the tests available on intelligence? So first, the various philosopher has defined the intelligence. One is STEM. In 1914, defined an intelligence as a general capacity of individual to concisely adjust his or her thinking to new requirement. Albert Binet has also defined intelligence, then it is an ability of individual to direct their behavior towards a goal. Jean Piaget, Jean Piaget was the most important psychologist, eminent psychologist. He realized that intelligence is adaptation of physical and social environment. But the most comprehensive definition given by David Wessler, who has defined intelligence as a global capacity of individual to act purposefully, think rationally, deal effectively with the environment. It is one of the most accepted definition because he talk about kind of environment purposefully. So if we combine all, the intelligence is the ability to learn. The intelligence is ability to carry out higher process of thoughts. Intelligence is especially abstract thinking, and intelligence is ability to adapt into the new situations. So there are various theories of intelligence. One is factor theory, and factor theory is based on one factor theory, many factor theory, two factor theory. This is the unitary theory, means one factor is being analyzed. This is the multi-factor, and it is given by Thorndike. And according to him, intelligence is a combination of numerous separate element or separate factors. Two factors, it is founded by Charles Spearman, and as the from the name two factor means there are two factors, general and specific. And one more theory is given by the Preston, and Preston defined there are nine factors which influence, which affect the intelligence. One is verbal factor, spatial factor, numerical factor, memory factor, word influence factor, inducive reasoning factor, deductive reasoning factor, perceptual factor, problem solving factor. And one more theory is Vannon theory. He was the British psychologist. He is also given theory on intelligence. The Gulfard's theories is there on the structure of intellect. It has been proposed by the John Paul Guilford with the help of University of Southern California. So this is about a very brief discussion about the theories of intelligence. Some more theories. Triarchic theory of intelligence. It was formulated by Robert J. And he has defined very important outcomes. Why intelligent people fail. See, there are so many factors like nature of human intelligence, lack of motivation, lack of impulsive control, lack of perseverance, fear of failure, even procrastination, inability to delay gratification, too little or too much self confidence. Next, this is one of the most important theory of given by the Howard Gardner. This is also known as theory of multiple intelligence. Howard Gardner has eight basic type of intelligence. He has identified the eight type of intelligence. One is visual spectacle, verbal imagistic, logical mathematical, bodily means kinetic, musical means rhythmic, interpersonal, intrapersonal, even naturalistic, existential. So what should be the implications of these theories for a teacher? By learning these theories, each person possesses all these type of intelligences. that should be known to the teacher. Intelligence can be developed. It is inherent, but it can be developed by some kind of counseling, guidance, nurturing, knowledge, education. Intelligence works in complex way, and there are many different way to be intelligent. As a teacher, we should be aware about all four important things about the intelligence. So, what are the major characteristics for intelligence? Intelligence is the mental capacity, mental energy available with the individual at a particular time in a particular situation, and that help an individual in the task or theoretical as well as practical manipulation of things. These are ability to learn, ability to solve the problem. Means characteristic of intelligence is ability to learn, ability to solve problems, ability to deal with abstractions, ability to see relationship with object and ideas, ability to apply acquired knowledge to new situations, and excellence of performance has manifested in efficient work. Last but not least, analytical and scientific ability of mind. So these are the major characteristics of intelligence. You know, if we talk IQ, as children grow in age, their intelligence also increase, but their mental growth at certain age may varies because of individual differences and many other reasons. If you measure the intelligence, that is known as IQ, intellectual quotient. If we see the graph, here the examples are given. If the person is having IQ is 140, then classification the person may be a child, may be genius. If he or she is genius, then he should be involved to getting good type of knowledge, or even a special class may be given to the child, special attention to be given to the child with the help of parents and the state. If the IQ is 130 to 39, then it is defined that child is very superior. There are stages 110 to 19, 120 to 129. If the child is having IQ is 100 to 109, then child is normal. If the IQ is 70 or near about 60, means the child borderline or maybe mentally deficient. And for that kind of child, special schools, special instructions, special care must be given. So what is IQ? Mathematically, we will learn in next slide. Intelligence is usually measured as IQ, intelligence quotient, and you know it is first time used by the William Stein, who was the German psychologist, and he devised one formula that IQ equal to MA oblique CA into 100. MA is mental age and CA is chronological age. So what is mental age? What is chronological age? We are taking one example. If you are taking a 6-year-old child and you are giving the questions which are assigned for the 6-year age, that MQ and CA will be 6. If we further proceed, if we are giving the questions of 7-year age and 8-year age, then mental age will be exceed If we are giving even age of ninth questions and further mental age, and this is the formula. MA is basal age plus partial credits. So IQ is defined by this formula. And some numerical questions may comes in your this term and examination based on IQ. Means calculate the IQ when the student is having age itna and he is able to solve the questions up to the level of this. Next is test. If we talk about the what kind of the test, intelligence test, there are so many tests available to measure the intelligence. So individual test maybe, that may be the group test, and based on the necessity, intelligence test may be verbal test, non-verbal test. So there are various kind of tests available in the psychological lab to measure the intelligence of the child. If we take one by one, there is a verbal test. So these are the uh, varieties. Means vocabulary test is there, memory test is there, comprehension test is there, information test is there, reasoning test is there. We provide some questions or some problems, and students fill the blanks based on reasoning, and association test is there. Next, there are individual verbal test, individual performance test. You know, the best example of individual verbal test is Binet Stanford scale on intelligence. If we see the individual performance test, then Pinter Pater scale is there, and Alexander Battery of performance scale is there. There are two scales available on individual performance test. If you talk global verbal test, an Army Alpha test is there, and Army General Classification test is there to measure the intelligence of individual as well as group. There are many tests available. If we say the group non-verbal test of intelligence, here Army Beta test is there, and Chicago non-verbal test is there. So there are so many non-verbal and non-language tests also there, which are framed, which are designed by modern psychologists, and such all tests are available in the psychological labs. So this is the about the first day. So thank you very much. We will meet tomorrow with same enthusiasm.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Good day.
Thank you, sir.